Hey guys, I'm back with part 2 of my tier list video, and today I'm going to be talking about the high tiers, and so I'm going to start it off with 3 characters actually. Lucario, Falken, and Wario. And the reason I put these 3 together is because it's hard to order them above each other because they all are really good for the same reason that they pretty much, even though they have a worse neutral game than the top tiers, they pretty much just have the potential to win at any point. Lucario has aura, Falken just has a good spike, his knee, and just in general high kill power and high damage output, and Wario has his waft. And so, Lucario, his neutral game isn't that great until he hits about 80%. When he hits 80%, a lot of his moves become very hard to punish on shield, they become very powerful, he gets good combos, he gets some weird kill confirms off Aura Sphere and throws. And he's hard to edge guard because his recovery comes really good. And so essentially, if you don't kill Lucario at 100+%, before he hits 100+, he's gonna just be terrifying because you can die at 40. And he has a good neutral when he hits that percent, just because so much stuff is safe on shield and so terrifying. And then he has side B, which has good range, and he's hard to edge guard. So that's him in a nutshell. You see Lucario doing really good with him at tournaments recently, and I think you're going to see more Lucarios do well with him over time as players get better at using their neutral, using the tools to their advantage, and playing with footsies and spacing a lot better. And so, after Lucario is Falken. Falken, like I said, power, speed, he essentially controls the entire stage because he has such good dash range, or dash grab. He just goes from across the stage in a moment if you make one mistake, one whiff. And it's terrifying. And then you can combo that into up airs. He can go for 50-50s with knees and down airs and back airs. And forward smash is a very good move to punish you for whiffing something up close. Side B with rage is powerful. And what holds Falken back really is just that his disadvantage state is really bad. He has a lot of trouble escaping juggles due to him being a fast faller, being kind of big, heavy, etc., etc. And then his recovery is really bad, awful. It's not on the same as to say that a top level player can gimp a Falken really easily when they get used to it, just based on spacing and timing, because it's so linear and so easy to cover all the options. So that's what holds him back from being a top tier, and honestly is probably the reason he will drop over time, because he's so abusable when he's in those bad positions. But his neutral game is so good that I don't think he'll ever be below high tier, just because he can win neutral off one good read. And so you see Falken has good results with Fatality, and then there are other Falcons that do decent with him, but really Fatality is very good with Falken in his region of Georgia, and that Smash kind of got 5th with him or 7th. Either way, he did really well with him. And you can see Zero. I know Zero is hard to use to explain things because he's so good, but you see Zero has done good things with Falken too. So yeah, that's Falken. After Falken, I'd put Wario. And Wario, you see with Abadongo does well, Reflex does well, Weymouth in Mexico does well, and basically this character that just waft. That's really it. His neutral game is pretty mediocre, but he has very good airspeed. He has an air command grab, which is, I can't even explain how good of a move that is. I go into essays about it. And he's heavy, he's kind of small, so he's hard to hit, he's hard to kill, hard to edge guard, as long as he has his bike. And you can just with Wario, don't let the opponent get your bike. Basically, you shouldn't have too much trouble recovering. And essentially a good Wario who knows his kill confirms into waft, you only have one stock against. Because even though he'll lose neutral to basically everyone, if he takes your stock and has a build up waft and he's 80%, you're 40, you can just lose. It's a good down air at the right spacing into waft's guaranteed combo, dead. If you're getting edge guarded and he just wafts you, you might just be dead. He just reads you or punishes you for something bad, you're dead. He gets a bike into waft, you're dead. A good Wario, you only have one stock against to play with really, and then the other stock is don't get hit unless he misses his waft, and then he's probably just gonna lose. Although he has the ability to stall for another waft. That said, I'm not sure if he's going to drop or rise over time. He might honestly just stay here, because I don't think he'll ever be a character below high tier just because of that. But he'll never be a top tier in my opinion, just because Otherwise, his moves aren't that great. And so then, after Wario, this is where it gets a bit tricky to like place the characters because there's so many good characters, but no one that like stands out really. So I'd have to put Villager next. Yeah, Villager. And that's because pretty much Renai. That's it. Renai dominates Japan. Like, he doesn't win every tournament there, but he won enough of their big tournaments, including the recent Sumbato, I believe. And, like, Japan puts him in their top 5 because of Renai. And although I don't think Villager is actually that great of a character, I would personally put him, like, upper mid-tier or lower high-tier at best. Japan thinks he's really good. And I don't know what to say about it. I honestly am just putting him here as, like, a leap of faith on Renai being really good. And we'll see when he comes to America just how good he places. With that said, Villager does lose very hard to Rosalina. And I think in general, if you just have a solid, like, grounded spacing game, footsies game, and know when to shield and when to punish his aerials, he shouldn't be too hard to fight. But there's no Villager in America that really compares to Renai, so we'll see what happens with his character. I'm really unsure if I'm just taking a guess with him here. And so, after Villager is Pac-Man. Pac-Man pretty much beats the mid-tiers and lower by just camping them because he can't really approach his camp game that well. But he loses solidly to the top tiers, and even the high tiers can give him varying degrees of difficulty, or he can slightly beat them. And basically, he's like a one-note character. He either camps you and beats you because you can't get past his neutral, his camping, or he loses because you can get past that and then just juggle him. And his juggles are alright, his fops are alright, his kill power, everything else is alright, including his edge guarding. And it's really just that he wins or he loses pretty much at the character select screen against a lot of matchups at top level play. Which is why I think you see Abadango switching off Pac-Man and using more Wario and other secondaries as of late covers bad matchups. And why you see a lot of Pac-Mans in general dropping their character for more characters as the game goes on. And so I do think Pac-Man over time will drop to be like the bottom of high tier, just because I don't think he can compete with the top tiers or the other high tiers really. And so after Pac-Man, I would have to put, I'm gonna say Yoshi. Yoshi's a character that, he's weird. Everyone when the game first came out thought he was just like amazing top 5 at worst character. And I can understand why. He has all these great moves, he has great attributes like the double jump armor, good kill power, good air speed, safe approaches, a command grab in the air, lots of damage output. He has all this great stuff. But then the question is, why isn't he being used? Why isn't those things with him? And some would argue that that's just because no top player has picked him up. But my counter argument would be that, generally speaking, top players tend to gravitate towards top characters because they want to win and be top players. And what a character like Yoshi, where people were dropping him over time as opposed to picking him up as the metagame evolved, that tells me that I think the character isn't as great as everyone wants to think he is in theory and potential, because like people have just dropped him and top players have gravitated away from him. And I think the reason for this is because even though he has all these great traits, there are two issues with him. One is that most of his great traits come from him jumping, and for the most part, jumping in this game isn't that great. Like, you don't want to jump that much because when you jump, you have to land, and you leave yourself very vulnerable when you're landing. And especially Yoshi doesn't cover like the underside of him well, and so that's an issue. And he just puts himself in bad spots with like short up egg throw if someone knows how to react and punish that. But I think the other issue is just that he's more like a bag of really good tools. He has all these options that by themselves on paper are amazing, like a command grab, a 30 damage down air, his eggs, but they don't really flow into each other. Like, if Yoshi's jumping at you, his options are pretty limited and easy to exploit. If Yoshi's far away from you, once again, you can expect like an egg throw, punish him up close. You can just expect like the jab, dash tech, neutral air. Like, you can kind of know what he's going to do based on his positioning really easily. And I could be wrong. It could really just be no top player picked him up. But I think it just ends up being he's too predictable because all his optimal options are like not varied enough. But that's just my opinion. I think his character will drop over time unless someone picks him up, and I really just think it's because the character was massively overrated. Not that he's bad, it's just not as good as people want him to be. And so, after Yoshi, this is where it gets very interesting. I'm going to have to put Ike. Ike is a character that's gotten so many buffs since the release of Smash 4. When the game first came out, he was probably a bottom 5 character, but now he has good frame data, good range on attacks, very strong, of course. His mobility is a little bit lackluster, but his recovery is nice, his edge guarding is pretty decent, his juggling is pretty decent, and like, he essentially is pretty decent in all regards except for his power, and his extremely high power on his attacks combined with having a really long range sword is what makes him good, because it's very hard to actually fight him and challenge him, and like in neutral he's hard to hit. When he's in a bad spot, like off stage, it's not too bad because his recovery options are pretty strong. Although they're exploitable, it's very risky to go and stop his up B, because if you do and miss up, you just die. And then when he's being juggled, he's in a really bad spot, of course, and that's probably his biggest weakness, is that he doesn't escape juggles well at all. And also, certain fast characters can punish him for whiffing, and certain characters that can force him to approach and don't let him do it, like a needle camping Sheik, just make life miserable for him. But otherwise, he's just like good. Like, he can compete with the top tier as well. He can compete with the high tiers. He can pretty much just beat the mid tiers and below, not too difficultly. He is like just able to compete with them, and you see Rio doing good with him in Florida. You see Ryuga beating Ally recently, I believe. And I think as time goes on, more Ikes will pop up and do work with the character with all the buffs he's been getting. And so, after Ike, I would have to put, where is he? Pit, and I'm just gonna put Dark Pit with him because, for the most part, if you play Pit, you play Dark Pit, and really, the only time you use Dark Pit is for the Rosa matchup, but that still is pretty relevant. But like, of course, same character, so whatever, no one care that much. Anyway, so Pit is a character that, his footsies game is insane. He has, I think it's like a frame 7 or something, dash attack and dash grab, that has good follow-ups at low and medium percents, good combos, hard to challenge. His just dash, like his foxtrot speed, I should say, is really good. His range of attacks is good. His aerials are good. His everything about him is just good, and he's essentially a jack of all trades, with his expertise just being in the fact that in neutral he can play really good footsies because of his disjoints and go for really good 50-50s because of his dash attack and dash grab, and they can follow up all those well. And so you see Naru doing good with him, you see Earth doing good with him in Japan. On paper, he can compete with all the high tiers pretty well, and even the top tiers, and although he won't beat the top tiers matchup wise, he can definitely like go toe to toe with him. And then he, in theory, should beat like all the mid tiers and below at least somewhat, just because he like is so good at everything. So yeah, Pit and Dark Pit, just like these overall rounded characters, really good characters to learn if you're just trying to learn the fundamentals of Smash Brothers. But I don't really see them rising or dropping because they're so average in all other respects. And so after Pit and Dark Pit is Orlimar. And this is a character that is very much like Luigi in that he either wins the matchup he's against or loses hard. Like, there are very few matchups with Orlimar I'd say are even amongst the high and top tier characters. And so I put him here because he's just that counterpick character. He either can wall people out and kill him early and like just do damage and not let him like do much to get past the wall and kill him, or he can just get pressured so hard, out frame dated so hard to a point where he can't establish his wall in game period, and he'll just lose because he gets juggled, edge guarded, etc. And so he's a character that I think is going to drop over time as like more people pick up like Sheik or other fast characters, and just they get people learn how to get around his wall more. And I don't think he has that much potential in the current meta, just because his disadvantages are so like abusable. But I think he's always going to be a character that's good to have as a pocket just for certain matchups, such as Diddy Kong actually, or a Villager. And so after Orlimar, this is where it gets very difficult, and this is where I would have to put Greninja. And Greninja is a character that pretty much, he has all the offensive tools a character could want. He has high speed, he's a hard character to hit due to his small size, he has good combos off his grab, off his like just regular attacks, he has good pressure with like somewhat safe moves, he has projectile to like be annoying with, his recovery's a bit hard to stop, he has good mix-ups, he just has like all this stuff that's really good in the offense. And the problem with him is that on the defense, he's not good. He has no good out shield option, period. You hit his shield grab's like 12 frames, it's not even that big range. His drop shield jab is like pretty slow as well. His out shield option from jumping isn't really that good either, with like slow startup and forward air and neutral air not being big enough hitbox. And basically he's a character that either gets his game going, gets pressure happening, and is hard to stop, or you start pressuring him and he has trouble like getting into the game. He's also juggled easily. His recovery, although it's very linear, it's very like hard to stop, it isn't unstoppable, and if you make a good read on where he goes, you can just end his stock really easily. And so he's a glass cannon that just needs a bit more on the defense to really like stand with the other top tiers and even the high tiers. And so then after Greninja, I would put Mega Man. Mega Man, similar to Orlimar, is more of a like counter pick character, I think, where he does very well against certain matchups. Like Luigi, he apparently destroys. I can see him beating Mario pretty well. And basically these characters that can't get past his wall, like Orlimar, he'll beat. But if characters can get past his wall, then he should just have trouble with them and not like be able to do much. Like Sheik, for example, or I can imagine Zero Suit Fox. In fact, I think Mega Man though has a lot of versatility in his walling due to all his projectiles, doing so many different things and being good at what they do. I think his up tilt killing absurdly early and being like a great outshield option is going to help in the future as people just learn how to perfect shield better and space better and punish better. And so I think he'll rise a little bit in the high tiers, because I think you can handle the high tiers pretty well and some of the top tiers even. But as long as he is so like vulnerable to raw pressure and getting juggled and whatnot from fast characters, he's never going to be a top tier and could actually drop over time. But he's certainly a good character. He certainly beats like most of the mid tier characters. And so after Mega Man is Ryu. Actually, after Mega Man is Marth. So Mega was next. So Martha is a character that's been getting buffed significantly, and also one thing about like Orlimar, Greninja, and Mega Man I forgot to talk about is they all have some results at like national level or like high level, regional level. Like Orlimar has me, and in Midwest there's a few Olimars. There's Rich Brown in Cali. There's Mirren in Florida. I'm not sure about other countries. I know Greninja has Amsa doing really well with him. Mega Man has Seabreak and Gruard Insane, I believe. I believe there's like a Mega Man in Japan that does well. And I think there is a Scat in Georgia that does well also. Yeah, so they have results. Marth is where you get the high tier characters at a high tier just because like their theory says they should be, even though their results aren't that great. And he's basically just, he plays what he wants to play now. Before the patches, he couldn't really space people out with his aerials because they had a bit too much lag. But now his aerials have just enough cooldown with just enough range and power that he can kind of space on shield when they're spaced properly, and like pressure to an extent, play defense to an extent, and he can just play with his sword basically and like hit you and stop you from hitting him. With that said, he still doesn't have the best frame data. He still gets like wrecked up close against like characters like Sheik, Fox, even like Falken, who can get in his face, could give him some trouble. And so I'm not exactly sure where to place him, but I don't think he's a bad character by any means. I think he's just not a great character, but I think he's better than the mid-tier characters just because his game plan it's workable now. It's definitely a game plan that works and can be used, and he can definitely beat other people with Marth. But he could definitely drop in the mid-tier. And so after Marth is Ryu. And this character, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just putting here because the theory of him is that he has a lot of potential to just do work with. That's it. But otherwise, he could end up just being this character that actually isn't that great. Because his frame data, it's alright. His power moves is good. He doesn't have the best combos outside of like some grounded stuff. He doesn't juggle well, he doesn't edge guard well. But he can escape from juggles well and recover decently, depending on the character he's fighting against. And he's a very unexplored character, of course. Only Trello doing things with him recently. And I don't know, he could easily just be like not that great of a character because he gets kind of pressured by like the fast characters. Like characters like Mario can just abuse raw frame data against him. But who knows? Shoryuken is a one frame like reversal move that's very powerful. Focus attack is a very nice counter move and a move to escape juggles. Forward air is a great tool in general, along with his like just ground moves in general. Also, his Hadouken's nice, and I'm not exactly sure where to put him, but I don't think it would be fair to put him as a mid tier when he does have all these good tools. And so then, after Ryu, I'd have to tentatively put Donkey Kong. And it feels weird to put Donkey Kong up here, and honestly, he might end up just being a bad character, Donkey Kong, but he got very big buffs on his grab game. And he's at the point right now where he can grab you and kill you in like 2 or 3 grabs, depending on your character and depending on his rage. So it's like, even though he gets juggled very well, edge guarded very well, he doesn't have the best frame data or neutral game, having the ability to bring you from 0 to 62 off a grab and then kill you at 80 from a grab with a huge grab range, that is, oh my god, that is so good. Like, that is what makes a character good, is having a grab game like Donkey Kong's. And then he can deal with shields with like side B, he can cover options with down B, and he can play the neutral well enough. And so he might just end up being a bad character, I'm not sure, but I don't think he is. You see DK do good with him. Got what, like 5th or 7th at SmashCon, and just, yeah, it's a solid character overall. But who knows, he could drop over time. I don't really see him rising though in the tier list. Like, he's never going to be a middle of high tier or top of high tier character unless some big discoveries are made. And after Donkey Kong, I'd say that's the end of my high tiers. There's a couple of the characters I was debating putting in there, like a Rob or Wii Fit potentially, but I just decided not to because the theory and the results aren't quite enough to justify putting them in the high tier. Even then, when you get to Pit, actually, is when these were characters I was debating putting in a tier lower, but I don't think they're so much worse than like Ike and above that they deserve a tier lower. And yeah, that is my high tier list. I might do my mid tiers and like low tiers in another video, but I might not. And if I don't do that, I will just like make finish my tier list. I just like post it as like an image, like my complete tier list. So with that, guys, if you like this video, comment, let me know what you thought about it. You give me your opinions. I'm just like, I like seeing what people think about tier lists as making advances. With that, see you everyone.